morning, Michael, and happy Monday. Today is January 20, I don't know, 29th.
Yeah.
And this is the Crushing Iron Triathlon podcast.
It sure is.
How you doing, man?
Doing great, man. Just sitting here in my new haircut and podcasting.
Whoa. I know, you had your new haircut yesterday when I saw you, didn't you?
Yeah. But
yeah.
It's pretty short, so it's still short.
I know. I love the fade, and I love the lettering you did on the sides this time. It's looking awesome.
C26 shaved into the side of my head.
Yeah.
Iron Man, IMW shaved in the other side.
Yep. And then flat bills suck on the back of your, right there on the back.
I'm not ready to go there yet, man.
I know you kind of like your flat bill.
But it's just kind of a fun thing once in a while. I don't really wear them like that.
Is it?
A little bit. I'm about half flat bill.
It's like wearing a tank top.
Yeah, once in a while.
Yeah, dudes that wear a tank top. Yeah.
Yeah, with a flat bill. I'm kind of in between a flat bill and a super curve. What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
What would that be called? That's like a radical moderate.
I think that's right. You can't decide if you're a millennial or a baby boomer. Is basically what it sounds like.
I've been on the edge of like trying to be that millennial in some regard, just in a youthful way. I mean, that's kind of the story of my life, right? Sort of
trying to be a millennial.
Well, no, stay younger than I am.
Oh, yeah. That's true. Yeah, that's true.
I'm not.
You're not eating Tide Pods or anything.
No, yeah. I just heard about that.
It's the future of our country.
Is that a real thing? Did you ever have one of those things when you were growing up?
Where I ate Tide Pods?
No, I mean it seems like every generation has their thing, you know.
Gosh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've done plenty of stupid stuff before, but I don't think it definitely doesn't fall into that category.
Yeah. Is that like a real thing out there? Tide Pods?
I try not. Rumor is it is, but I try to stay away from like even looking into it because I already have like a just general
fear,
just distaste for the decision making. But yeah, it's just kind of who knows. But apparently people are doing it. But the fact of the matter is there's plenty of stupid people on this planet.
I know,
and they get usually more press than the smart people, so that's just always going to be how it is. But
right, because I'm thinking to myself, some high school was probably doing it, and it got to be a big deal, and then a couple parents wrote in, and the next thing you know, the whole country's in an epidemic. And
no, I guess like chicken was like one of the bigger things when I was growing up.
Eating chicken?
No, like playing chicken.
Oh, okay.
Like driving at each other or on bikes or whatever. But I read somebody this morning, Gordo Byrne, that I like follow. He said, here's your generational status report. Baby boomers, fat, happy, old, and clinging to power. Generation X, milking what's left of our careers so they won't be stocking Walmart at 60. Millennials, want communism, but only if it features iPhones and flat whites.
Oh, boy. And
then Generation Z, eating Tide Pods for YouTube likes. And that's basically America. Summed up.
And you know what, man? It's just one of those things that I think about this all the time, like the social media and the new stuff that all the kids are doing and everything like that. It is what it is, man. We had our stuff, I guess, and they have their stuff. And the best way to deal with any of that stuff is just sort of to accept that it is going to be like that. And how do we do it the best we can,
Yeah, it is. We'll deal with it the best we can, not do it the best we can.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like how do we live with it and not let it disrupt us?
No, you just don't care.
You just don't care.
Yeah, that's really the simplest answer.
Yeah. Back to Bukowski, don't try.
That's right, exactly. Yeah. Listen, if you're eating Tide Pods, you got your own issues. I'm out.
This is the Crushing Iron Podcast, episode number 133.
Almost to 2,000.
Yeah. Climbing the ladder.
So what do you got today? You got any topics? Brewing? I know you're up kind of early for this recording, so I know that you usually lean on me pretty heavily for these early morning drivers, but you seem pretty spry this morning.
I'm not too bad. Not too bad at all, man. Didn't sleep. I was up, this whole, the last podcast with Zach got me, back into Wisconsin basketball mode a little bit, and it's got me tossing and turning. And now I've actually been up this morning trying to figure out a solution for dog hair. And if you've got one, I'll really take it. If anybody's got one, I'll take it.
As far as shedding goes?
Yeah, I mean, as far as your house goes.
Allie, it is like, we've got Conan. She's a white dog like Maddie is, and we've got dark hardwood floors. So I mean, if she sneezes, it's like a white Christmas tree just got shook in half.
Wow.
All over the floor. And she had been shedding a ton, and so that was one of the reasons why Allie was so pumped up to get this new vacuum we got. We have a brush now that I've been brushing her like maybe 3 times a week, and it has drastically, and I mean probably talking like reduced the shedding on the floors by, I would say, at least 80%.
80%. All right, we're gonna have to we'll post a link to that brush.
Yeah, that's right. I can't remember what it's called, but Allie, it's the sad but funny thing is we've actually had it for like 4 years and and forgot that we had it, and so we're like, man, we really got to do something. I wonder if, and I was looking online, I was like, I wonder if we can get one of these brushes. She's like, wait, I think I actually have one.
Yeah, there we go, another American problem.
Yeah, stuff. And but we have it, and so we didn't have to buy one, and we've been doing it, and it's crazy how much it's reduced her shedding, and I think and generally her coat just looks a lot more healthier and clean and shiny.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's always good, and she probably feels better.
Yeah, she does feel better.
Nice and light. So what's the temperament out there? We've got a lot of athletes.
Well, I will tell, just because I want to and I can, because this is our podcast and I'm half of it, is it's had such a great morning so far already. It's really awesome to have athletes just annihilating previous personal bests, and our C26 swim squad workout this morning were some all-out hundreds, and with a lot of rest, and just reading through Training Peaks comments and seeing athletes take off like 8 to 12 seconds off their PR 100 in January just gives me the good feels. Just makes my heart warm and fuzzy. And I had other athletes, like had an athlete earlier this week, PR on a 5K, just kind of the middle of the week, that never thought she would get, and then at the same time bumping up power thresholds for athletes. So it's really good. It is, and we talk about it all the time. And I had this kind of conversation with an athlete via text last night, and then I posted a video to and for our athletes on our closed active athlete page, just about as a coach, you get this question all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think I can this? Do you think I have the ability to do this? To go sub 12 and a half Ironman. Do you think I have the ability to go sub 5 in a 70.3? Do you think I have the ability to finish an Ironman? Do you think I can go sub 2 hours and a half marathon? And the most difficult thing and part of what I do as a coach, and especially this time of year, is that when people ask about ability, they're asking about ability in the wrong areas. They're asking about, do you think I have the athletic ability?
Right.
Which, listen, like success in this sport and success in pretty much every sport, to be honest with you, yeah, does some athletic ability play a part of it? Well, sure. But the biggest focus you can have, and what's so commonly and often misunderstood, is the greatest ability you can have as an athlete is the ability to stay consistent.
Yeah. That's what Zach was talking about on our last podcast, really.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
He's a really good example of that, actually, because
He is.
obviously, as far as most triathletes go, he's going to bring a lot, probably more athletic base. Do you agree?
Yes.
So,
100%, yes.
as sort of, he said he had a 5 for 4, whatever they call it. He wasn't necessarily a high scholarship offer out of high school to go play basketball, but he had to, go that he had to have consistency and work extra hard to play, and he ended up starting for a D1 university that went to the Sweet 16 2 years in a row by the end of his career. So I think that's a good example of what you're talking about on a different playing field.
Oh, it is, and you saw how much success that he had. If he would have asked a coach when he was in high school or middle school or whatever, AAU or anything, hey, do you think I have the ability to play for a Final Four team? Somebody would have probably looked at him and said no. Probably. If you're talking just on athletic ability or size or stature, shooting percentage, whatever you want to talk about. But if he said, do you think if I consistently work super hard every single day and do all the little things right, do you think I would have the opportunity to do this? And I bet you the coach would say yes. Because your likelihood is so much greater the more consistent you are, because you give yourself more opportunities. And that's what this sport is all about. It's all about opportunities. And it is. And it's it's a common theme this time of year as a coach that I deal with, that it can be frustrating because as a coach, because sometimes it's hard to get the point across, because it's hard to understand that, listen, in January, there really isn't that much to look at. And 30-minute runs, like, what did you see? How does it look? Well, it looked like you got up and ran for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like it's not fancy, it's not spectacular, but your ability to stay consistent in the face of knowing that we're far away, in the face of knowing that nobody's going to see it, like, your ability to be that consistent will allow us both to realize what your true potential might be. Because the fact is, and we've talked about this before, like, when you ask me, 6 months before, do you think I can do, this? I have no idea. No idea. Mm-hmm. Zero. And athletes hate it when I tell them that. I have no idea. Zero clue. None. Because the fact is, like, A, where did you get that number? And B, 6 months from now, we have no idea what's going to happen. But I can tell you, if you're just consistent and you work hard every day, and you just buy into doing all the little things right and not trying to PR workouts, that once we get, a month, 4 to 6 weeks out, we'll kind of know what you're capable of. And we'll have an idea, and that's how we can start to put a game plan together. But to you got the two ends of the spectrum. For me to say, oh, I think you're capable of a 12-hour Ironman finish. Well, now I've just programmed you to thinking and accepting that time. So we now have some arbitrary time to where you're either going to work towards it and surpass it, and then kind of hold back and think, oh, but I've got that 12. I don't need to work as hard. Or you're going to be reaching so hard for it, you feel like you're never going to get there, so you're going to end up quitting beforehand. It's the same thing, and the same concept goes for just going out for a run. If you go out with these preconceived notions, or I'm going to crush this run, and you look down at after 1 mile and it says, 10 minutes, and you thought for sure you were going to dominate this run, well, you just basically ruined your whole run mentally, and now you're not going to feel as successful as you could feel if you just went into it with absolutely no expectation. And so it's just that ability for athletes and for new athletes that want to see overnight success, or who want to have a time, or it's not there. And so it's the ability to be consistent that is the best marker. And what's often lost in the whole conversation of December, January, February, March is, the more consistent you can be, the more we're going to have to look at. So if you like to look at data and you like to analyze results and you like to break down the numbers, then give yourself or give your coach a good sample set. You know, like when they do like clinical trials or research things, like they're just like, oh, we're going to go like, you know, we'll deal with a couple things on a Monday and a Wednesday and a Sunday with a couple different variables, and then the next week maybe we'll do like something different. That's not how you get results that are tangible that you can see progression from. So the more consistent you can be and the more committed you can be to putting together workouts and then days and then weeks and then months, well, now we have stuff to work with. And so this time of year it's the consistency and it's the quiet work, you know, that really tend to be the biggest struggle for a lot of people right now.
Yeah. My thought on, see, I fit into that category, one of those categories that you're talking about, as in, i.e., the can I go sub 12? Yes. Oh, okay. I mean, I believe that, and I didn't hit my potential. It's sort of this analogy I've used before, but it's studying for a final. If you study every day, the odds of you doing well on that final are pretty high. But if you're like a gifted person, you can kind of pull one out of your ass and do the same kind of thing, but the odds are against it, you know? So that's, I mean, studying, consistent training, whatever it may be. And I also think that leads to a more sense of a calm as you hit the race too, you know?
Well, yeah.
And that's one of the, you know, we've talked about this many times, but that's sort of where I struggle a lot. And it's, even though it's, my questions to you may be differently, as in, I can, you know what I can do, what I've been able to do, you know, over the years, but can I do something greater? And you're sitting there going, well, I think you can in your mind, and not until I see you be consistent with your workouts and kind of show me what you can do at a high end or you know, as a growth pattern consistently. And so I'm just trying to appeal, in a sense, to, I think there's probably a lot of athletes out there that know what they can do, and they might be trapped in that same thing I'm in, as in, you know what you can do.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
you've done it just recently with your swimming. You've had a breakthrough with that because you know that you can swim well, but now you've proven to yourself that you can swim even better.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go to that in a second, but a lot of it is like, I mean, generally, do you have to be smart to be a doctor?
Generally, sure.
Generally. Yeah, I've met some dumb ones. Yeah. But most people's, I think, disinterest, or the reason they don't, is because of how long it takes. They don't have the commitment to go through 4 years of undergrad, you know, and then about 8 to 12 more years of, you know, postgraduate work and internship and residency. They just don't have that commitment or that drive to want to do that or become that. And there are plenty of brilliant people who probably could be excellent doctors, but they just chose to do something else, you know, or they didn't want to have to commit to basically, you know, 12 years of waiting. But in terms of my swimming, it's, yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before. It's like, hey, you know, it's, you have to commit, but we often become the stories that we tell ourselves. And, you know, along with, you know, other people, like it's when it comes to swimming for me, you know, I'd always said, oh, well, it's going to take a lot more effort for me to be able to drop from, you know, going an all out off the wall like 110. I'm going to have to put in a lot of work to be able to get, you know, to drop that time significantly. And is it worth it? In the last few months since Louisville in October, you know, we're looking at, you know, let's call it November, December, you know, and now we're, you know, more than halfway through January. So we'll call it 3 months. And I would say I'm really going to commit to just swimming more and swimming more focused and choosing to want to get better. And even if it meant just going from like a 110 to like a 106, I still wanted to at least see, instead of convincing myself that, we're telling myself, well, 110 is, because really what that is it's also an excuse not to not work harder. Because swimming is, and I will, even for me, and who's someone who swims well, swimming for me, when I swim hard, leaves me more gas than any of the three sports, without question. Not to mention wanting to eat everything that's alive.
Yeah.
Swimming hard, I think, is one of the hardest things that you can possibly do. It just takes a lot out of you. And so what are you going to tell yourself? Oh, yeah, but I have to work a little harder. Who wants to work harder?
Yeah.
I mean, you do, but it's like, but man, like, choosing that's if you think about it, like, and we do that with training or bumping up volume or bumping up intensity or choosing a longer distance or a shorter distance to go harder and faster. It's like we just made a choice in a world where you really don't have to do shit to make our lives infinitely harder.
Yeah.
And infinitely more difficult. We talk about time just from like, we pay to do this, but that's not even like the biggest thing. It's like the majority of, especially here in America, like 90% of Americans, I would say, get up, they have breakfast at home, they drive to work, they come home. That's it. Or they do whatever they want to, and they do everything that they can. They get, Uber Eats, people, bringing food to them. They have delivery services. You get Amazon shipping everything to your house except for mail order brides. And so we literally focus on how to make our lives easier in every single way. But when you choose a sport like running, cycling, swimming, or anything else as a craft or as a challenge or as something that you want to do, we make a choice to make our lives harder. But as with anything else in life, the harder a thing is, the greater you can become because of it. But you have to totally acknowledge and be prepared. Like, listen, I just made a choice by signing up for this race or committing to do this, that I'm now going to make my life harder. So things have to change. But it's my acceptance and acknowledging that it is going to be harder and that I'm going to commit to doing things better that yield to the more you do it, if not feeling so hard. And then it's not hard anymore. It just becomes a way of life and a weekly and a daily ritual or routine that you kind of fall into. But that's where the greatest amount of success comes as well, is not looking at things as a chore or an inconvenience. Like, you chose this. Like, it's not like somebody walked up to you and said, hey man, I signed you up for a full Ironman. Here's your entry form. Good luck. Like, you chose to do this.
Yeah.
And your attitude and your mental and emotional drive might go on a roller coaster and an ebb and flow of when things are important, and then life deters you. And yeah, is your life going to be the exact same every day that it is on the day you signed up for an event? No. But if you focus on just the small things, and not the race clock or the race calendar countdown, and you just take it literally one day and one workout and one session and trying to fit in 25 minutes here, then 30 minutes here, and then 35 minutes here, you can get really, really good results. But it's knowing that that's what you have to do and knowing you have to work hard, and then you wake up 60, 90 days later, with just doing what you knew you had to do, and things get a lot better and your times drop and you see the improvement.
Yeah. It's funny that we talk about once we drill down into, any new triathlete we meet or someone we meet in the sport that's training for Ironman or anything less that's gotten into triathlon, there's usually a reason back in there. And like you said, we've chosen to make our lives harder because life was too hard almost. Is that fair to say? It's not going the way we want to, so we have to have something that's going to push us a little bit harder, I feel like. And I mean, at least that's what I did, and it seems like most people I meet that get into this sport want some kind of dramatic shift in their lives or something.
Triathlon is in large part a pressure point.
Mm-hmm.
You've got this for a lot of people, and I know for me personally when I got into it and why I got into it, and I know tons of athletes who get into it to help battle like depression and anxiety. So you've got this like use a headache as an example. Like you've got this like nonstop headache that's just this dull pain that just kind of never goes away. And then you have somebody do a pressure point that's like focused but really hard, and all of a sudden everything else goes away. And for a lot of people, that's what this sport is. It's a pressure point. It's refocusing, a thought or a behavior or a lack of routine or even pain to a different area that they hope, because they've seen it, can be more productive and healthier to yield much better positive results.
Yeah, it's a vehicle to make that happen. Now, that's the macro side of things. The micro side of things is something you said earlier that I want to kind of get into a little bit more, because I think it's what we face after we've been in this a while. And it was you saying, if I'm at a 110 open 100 in a pool, and you made a commitment to say, let's see if I can shave 4 or 5 seconds off of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty insignificant in the big scope of things. I mean, you're drilling down to a new level there. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
how do we look at that situation? It may be the bike equivalent of, I want to add, half a mile an hour to my bike time. That doesn't. It's not really glamorous, is what I'm getting at. And
no.
And how did you wrap your head around that, or I don't want to say trick yourself, but like, what was it that, do you think, was there another pressure point? You know what I mean? Are we drilling down to deeper pressure points within? The big one is, I got to change my life, and then all these little ones start popping up. Why was that important to you to cut 4 seconds off your 100 time?
It wasn't the result wasn't what was the most important. It was the approach.
Okay.
Because you hear this all the time in outside of sport, like focusing and changing your life in one area will improve every other aspect of your life. It just kind of has a trickle down effect. And for me to approach swimming, something I've always been I had a ton of experience, something I've been natural at, something I just get, and I feel like I do it well. For me to focus on my strength, because to me, like, I love riding and running because that's where I have the biggest area of improvement, but it's easier. Yeah. It's easier for me to see the improvement versus, with you work hard, but you have to think more, and so it's like you almost feel more rewarding. And so for me, it was like, I guess, in a way, it's like tricking yourself. But for me, the result wasn't going to be the time on the clock. It was going to be the satisfaction of knowing that I actually am doing truly doing the best that I can. And even though I had no idea when I started, hitting it, really, really hard in the pool, what I may, get down to from 100 standpoint, because I didn't know, because it wasn't, and that's like one of the beauty, that's the beauty of so much of this is like, honestly, if you just always work and you're consistent and you put in really good effort, you're never going to, you hopefully won't peak after a year or 2 or 3 or 4. You literally can always improve. It's like the difference in, PRing and the mindset of like PRing your mile. If you're a 10-minute miler and you drop down to like a 9-minute, that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
The same can be said if you're a 5-minute miler and you get down to 4:57. It's only 3 seconds, but to the 5-minute miler, those 3 seconds are just as precious as that whole minute is to the person who dropped from a 10 to a 9. So it's not the time that dropped. It's the improvement that's the most important. and it's knowing how hard you had to work to get there. And so for me, it was, listen, I know that if I can focus as much on swimming, I know I'm going to focus as much on being consistent in my other two sports. And I've improved just as much, in cycling and running the past few months as I have in swimming. And did I think I would, honestly, if you just said, oh, well, do you think you'll get below a minute off the wall in the 100, I would have said no, but I did. I did it the other day. I did a 59, then I did a 58:40, but I really didn't think I could until a couple weeks ago when I got to like a 102, and I was like, oh, like maybe I can do this. Well, and now that I'm at 58, I'm like, well, now I wonder if I can get under 55. And so I didn't set myself a ceiling to give up on. It's just like, okay, well, I don't have to change anything. I just have to keep doing what I'm doing, and not hopefully, and I know that I will continue to get faster. I won't drop tons of time, but even going from like a 58 to a 57 is huge. It's just, it's telling yourself that it's all important because it's all improvement. And I think that just knowing that you're improving and knowing that you're doing what it takes in every aspect of the sport, which is so hard to do with this because it's all three. And listen, when you have options, you're always going to have one that's not your favorite. That's the beauty. That's or not the beauty. That's like the problem with having more than one is you have options of a favorite and a least favorite.
Yeah.
It's like you have people, oh, well, my favorite's this, so I need to, and like, you rarely ever hear, oh, my favorite is swimming, so I really need to work on my swimming. Like, you don't hear that. It's like, well, my favorite's running, so I definitely need to work on my swimming, because you don't have to convince somebody to go run because they love it. But the nature of our sport is that you're always going to have one that you just hate to do, whether it's I hate to ride or I hate to run because I'm not a quote unquote a runner, or I'm not a swimmer, so I hate to swim, and so I can't see the improvement. And so if you just commit to just getting better overall and have mindset of I'm not okay just being fine, and you know what? I don't accept not being good at this. And no, I don't accept just choosing to, be at the level or be at the ability or be at the pace that I'm at right now. I do not accept that. And you honestly don't have to put in like that much more effort. You just have to choose to just keep doing it and be consistent and not give up. And, exhaust all measures and information and surround yourself with good people. Really, it always will be the same choice that you made to sign up and the choice you made to make your life more difficult is the same choice that you have to make to get better. Like, just choose to not accept it. And that may seem hard on different days, and it is. It's not easy for me on some days. I just don't want to do things, and we always will tend to lean towards like taking the easier route. I'll take the flatter route, or I'll, and then it's like it's crazy. Like, you can go out on a run on 2 different days, and one day you feel, physically great, but mentally you're like, I would just rather take the easy route, and you take the flats. And then one day, even though if you're a little bit more fatigued, you go out, but your mind is in a totally different place, and you're like, you know what? I feel like shit, but I'm going with the hills. And it's like those moments that tell you what you're really about, in that it's not so much about what you see in the moment, it's about what you get down the road. And that's really hard to grasp for everyone. It's not something, and I'm not here trying to tell you that's something you can grasp every day. It's something that you have to work on, and you have to just do the best with the days that you have.
When I think about consistency, it's sort of one of those things that just kind of flies in. Everybody knows, or sort of knows. It's sort of like, be nice or whatever. But when you want to really, well, you know what I'm saying though, because it's
I do. I mean,
it's just one of those words, one of those concepts that everyone's like, well, yeah, just be consistent, and takes it with a grain of salt or whatever. But it's a lot deeper than that. I mean, the reality is, when you talk about consistency. I mean, if you want to use it, you mentioned, well, on the last podcast, Zach was saying, I asked him what did Coach Bo Ryan say before you guys went out and played Kentucky? They were 38-0 and the Final Four, and, it was the biggest game of anyone's life. And he said he was the same. It was just another game to him. And that's how he treated practice that week, I'm sure. And you talk about Belichick all the time and his consistency. And it's sort of like Nick Saban versus Lane Kiffin, in my opinion. It's sort of this, and I think of Lane Kiffin as the modern-day hack guy. And then Saban would just be, we'll just grind it out. What are we doing today? We're practicing like we did yesterday. And we're gonna do this consistently, and we're gonna get better over the long haul. And the thing about consistency is in a way strange, because that's how you see the biggest gains, but they take slower. They take a little longer time. The hack culture that we're in, kind of almost to me is sort of like, I'm not totally against it, because I always look for ways that because we do have a lot more information these days, but that can be dangerous too. But there is a lot of science and research and, just general experience. I talk about when Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile, then everybody sort of felt like then they started breaking it like crazy. It took forever for somebody to do it. But for whatever reason, now we've seen somebody do it. We can visualize it. It doesn't seem unattainable. But with the hack thing, it's almost like once you have your consistency in place and you've really made your solid gains, then you can look for tweaks,
Yeah.
And I would imagine in your mind, in some ways, you did that in the pool because you worked hard, and then you're thinking to yourself, well, what kind of little things can I do now? But you can't go into this from, hey, I need how can I tweak my game a little bit at the beginning? It's sort of, again, it's kind of like just building base. And until you have a base, you can't. Yeah. And I've learned that the hard way many times.
I mean, and we a couple notes on that, we joked about it a couple weeks ago. It's like, or you did, is like, this may be the most consistent I've ever been at anything in life.
Oh yeah.
As far as like churning out 2 podcasts a week for 65 weeks.
Yeah.
And and to go back to what you said, and if you're consistent, things just happen. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, besides just generally breathing, I haven't, since I got sober, it's been, I don't know, it's been over 4 years, so something over 1,500 straight days. I've never been consistent in anything ever in my entire life that has to do with that. And yeah, is it something that's definitely a lot different than training? Well, sure. But in terms of what you get when you're just consistent, you can't look at, and one of the biggest, when I go and speak at treatment centers and stuff about life after getting sober and how you can achieve it, and what people really want you to see, is that everybody wants to know, can I make it? Can I do this? Will I have these opportunities? Will I have this? Will I have that? Or they give up because they don't think they can ever have it. And all I can tell them is I have no idea. I have literally no idea if you can do this. But I can unequivocally tell you without question, if you do all these little things, then you will more than likely get this. It's there's no percentage, there's no, and for me, I didn't get sober for Allie or for Hayden or for a job, I did it for me.
Right.
Same thing for being consistent. But if I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have Allie. I wouldn't have Aiden. I wouldn't have this life, this job, where we live, in this house. So in the same can be said for how you approach training. You can't approach the day thinking, I'm going to work out today because I'm going to, I know that if I do this, I'm going to have this. But it's doing all the little things, one day, 7 days a week, 12, every month, 12 months a year. But then you look back and you think, holy crap. That's how you get to where you want to go, not by, and that's how it is with a lot of things in life. I don't even know where are we going to be a year from now or 2 years from now? I have no idea.
Right.
If you'd have told me I'd be sitting here right now doing this podcast with you this time last year when I was living in Kansas, I thought you were nuts. I mean, you're insane. So
wouldn't have been the first time.
Exactly, it's true. But like, just to think about things like that, and like trying to predict your future and hard enough, and then trying to predict your athletic ability and your times and your performances and or lack thereof. It's you don't know until you know. And I know it's like not the answer anyone wants to hear. They want to, like I honestly like despise like the watches these days that like spit out these race predictors because they're total full of horse shit. Like they couldn't be any farther from the truth. And if you want to go by them, go by them. I'll tell you right now, they're all wrong. They're one way or the other. But if you go out today with thinking, I'm going to do today because if I do it today, I'm going to dominate this. It's not going to happen that way. I'm going to go out to do it because today is what's needed so that I can get up tomorrow and do what's needed tomorrow. And if I just keep doing all these things, then I'll look back and think, God, like I can sometimes look back and like, man, like when I got sober, it seems like literally yesterday. And then some days it feels like forever ago. Yeah. But if you asked me then, like, do you think you can make it 4 years? Oh, probably not. Yeah. Because it seems impossible. Yeah. It seems like impossible. Like, signing up for an Ironman. Like, do you think you can do it? It's 12 months away. I don't know. I don't think so. Yeah. But if you live with that fear and that expectation and all those, like, that extra pressure you put on yourself, then it just makes it like harder instead of like, what? I don't know if I can finish. I don't know how I will finish. I don't know how well I will do and what the clock will read when I finish. But what I can tell you is that if I go out today and I do my run or I do my swim or I do my ride, then I will be in a much better place than if I had chosen not to do it. Asterisks aside, being sick, being injured, overtrained, whatever, you get the picture. And I can tell you again tomorrow, if you get up and you go to work and you do the work that's laid in front of you, then I promise you, you will be in an infinitely better place when it comes to race day. And that's literally as simple as it has to be. But like you say all the time, and we talk about, and you brought up earlier this week, it's like we want to make things so much more difficult. Because like sometimes how simple your life is, you need distractions or you need like almost like uncertainty, or anxiety or distractions. But like, listen, like the reality is that the simpler the approach and the more consistent, the better the result. And that's just the facts.
One of the hardest things in life is being in the moment.
God, yeah. And even like honestly, understanding that everything is okay. Instead of like trying to like come up with a story in your mind why you should be anxious. Or that things aren't okay.
Yeah.
Like I had those moments sometimes, and my sponsor would always ask this to me, like when I was going through rough times, is like, ask yourself this one question. Is everything okay right now in this moment? Yes. Then you're okay.
Yeah.
And I had that moment, like I was doing my run this morning, and I leave the house to go run right when Allie and Hayden head off to go to work, and I take this route that takes me back up on the interstate, and this morning I had like ambulances and cop cars like heaving onto the interstate, and like my first thought was, I wonder if that's Allie.
Sure.
But is that the same? Probably not, but you get the point. It's like it wasn't like, oh well, it was someone. It was like, oh, it's got to be Allie. Like of all like the literally billions of people, it seems like, that funnel into our city at 6:30 in the morning. It's like that's just not the case. But I couldn't get it off my mind for like the last 20 minutes of the run. I didn't cut my run short because I was like, listen, if you cut the run short, you're just like you're choosing to create a problem that doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's resistance.
Exactly. So I was like, I'm going to finish my run. And then, hey, listen, if it was her, I'm going to feel like shit when I get done. But, but I got done, and I shot her a text, and I was like, hey, just wanted to make sure you're okay. And she's like, oh, yeah, there was, like, this crazy scenario on the interstate. But it's like sometimes we're afraid, and I know this from experience, like, sometimes I think we're afraid to just, like, have things be good, or, like, I'm not injured, like, work's going great, relationships going great, like That's one of like the biggest like red flags for people who've been in sobriety a really, really long time is they try to self-sabotage things.
Yeah, man.
To create issues. And we do that in training too. It's like, we go weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks of being super consistent and injury free and healthy and just plugging away. And then you go out for a 6 mile and you choose to do something stupid and you take a stupid route, or you go on a trail run, that's super hilly and rocky, and you try and PR it and run for 10 extra miles to self-sabotage yourself because you need that like up and down. It's like, and you need to be forced to question yourself on how you're doing. You can't just be okay being where you are and knowing that tomorrow will be different and tomorrow will be better if I just do what I'm supposed to do today. And it's human nature. Nobody is immune to it. And it's a difficult concept.
Yeah. No, nobody is immune to it. It's sort of this impending feeling that the other shoe is going to drop. And I've talked about that before with you. It's like,
shoot.
You know what I mean? It's just...
Oh, for sure, dude. I had that for a long time. You know this.
Yeah. But that's the only solution, is like what you're saying, is just be here today. I've scheduled in my head these, tremendous goals and training blocks and things like that. And then I'm excited for that moment. And then I do a couple workouts, and then I start thinking about, man, can I do this every day for the next 100 days? I don't know. That sounds like a lot. And then you get to that self-sabotage point where you're kind of you convince yourself that, man, Ironman training is hard, man. I don't know if I can, does my body deserve this kind of pain? Whatever it is.
Yep.
So you flip from using it as a motivation to using it as a distraction and a reason to create an excuse. And that's the whole reason why today is the most important day, and today is day one and the only day we have, and I forget it all the time, and I don't know the solution other than being consistent in trying to do that as well.
Yeah. Well, it's like we
that's
do,
the core.
Like it is. And like if you think about it, like the 2 times in your life you really probably do just like regrettable stupid shit is when you're either really, really, really bored, or you're way, way, way too busy. And like the like a bored triathlete is like worst case scenario, because you're like, I can't stand just like being like okay right now. I've got to go do something. And like I always see like with my athletes like a direct correlation between certain questions that they ask and how focused they are. Like if an athlete can go weeks and weeks and weeks without asking about a race, then they're in like a prime zone. But if they can only go like a week or a couple days without asking about a race, then I know they're not totally in the zone, because they're looking for something to hold on to. They're looking for something to grasp. They're looking for something to get excited about or get worried about. And it's like, or how about this race? How about this race? I'm like, what the hell's going on right now? Like, just keep working out. Like, we'll figure it out. But it's like, it's clinging to, getting online and like looking up like you're, spending 2 hours on your Ironman.com website. Like, where's the athlete guide? Where's the course maps? Like, nothing's going to change. Go run.
Yeah.
Like it's like, but we try like, and the more that I see athletes that, or I have them, myself, and like, and I can see it sometimes, like they almost go silent. What about this workout? What about not this workout? What about this race? Oh, I think I could do this 5K. What about this 10K? What about this trail race? What about this Ragnar race? What about this 100-mile century ride? Like, what about this 70.3? Like, I'm going to do this. Like, this is too close. I'm like, first of all, calm the fuck down. Second of all, relax. And all of a sudden, when they get into like these really intense zones, when they're just so bought into doing the work, they get like silent. And they just put days and weeks and months, and they finally like wake up and they're like, this is it. Like, I can race if I want to race, but like I just love genuinely getting better. And that's when you see these awesome results, because like you said, going back to the hacks, like that's the world we live in. And I use this analogy all the time as a coach. It's so much like art. Like all I ask, if I'm the art instructor, and the goal by the end of the semester is for you to have painted this amazing masterpiece, this thing you would never think you could ever create. All I ask for you to do each day is show up rested, having eaten well, have your paper, have cleaned your brushes, and just show up to class. But all we're going to do today is this really, really small part of this masterpiece. Like we're talking like, an inches around. But we're gonna like just dial in on this one part of the masterpiece that's super small, but we're gonna do it perfect. And then guess what? Tomorrow, you're gonna wake up, you're gonna get rest, you're gonna have fed yourself well, you're gonna focus on your diet, you're gonna focus on your recovery, and again, you're gonna come to class with clean brushes, you're gonna come with your paper, you're gonna come prepared. And guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna tackle another inch. And then at the end of the semester, you know what we're going to have? This just freaking and ridiculous masterpiece of a race. But you see the ones who deviate and go off course and want to rush. Oh, well, I'm going to go home and do my own stuff. And you wake up and you're like, what the hell is this? Like, what you painted a Popeye and a Snoopy, with a mom heart and an arrow through it on the corner of this masterpiece, and like, what did you do? Oh, I got in a hurry.
Yeah.
All right, well, now we're behind. But it's that patience of just, and it sounds so simple, but it's like you want to rush through all of it.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing to comprehend, but it's the ones that wake up at the end of the semester and the end of, at the final, and look back and think, good God, it took forever, and there were parts of it that I hated and it bored me, but I wouldn't have done it any other way.
Yeah, the boring, that's what I was going to bring up. Most people like me would say, come on, that's boring, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And on the surface, it sounds boring, but again, there's not a more content feeling than being able to be in the moment. And I think over time that momentum creates such a richness. And I told this story one time again, but it fits, is when I was sort of this college baseball player that just played. I practiced, of course, and I didn't really understand these concepts. And we were just having fun and playing college baseball and partying and thinking about girls and stuff like that. So after college, though, at some point I was playing that softball business, and I really was at this point where I wanted to get better at shortstop. And I would go over to this local high school and throw a bouncing ball off of the wall for like an hour and work on my backhand. That's all I did. I was just throw to my backhand and feel my footwork, and and I got so much better. And I don't know exactly what triggered me, but I really enjoyed that. And I think it was just that process of because what happens is the game and the training becomes easier. It's that same concept we were talking about with train hard and the race gets easier.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to be afraid to get on the baseball field. It just scared the crap out of me because I knew that I could do it on one hand, but most of the time, you know that it's like Iron Man. Things can go really wrong. And there's so many possibilities for that thing to go off the rails. But the more you understand the concepts in your body and you practice that with consistency, and you've done these certain things over and over, you just get more confidence, and more confidence in general takes away that anxiety. And that's how you build confidence, I think, is just the little things. And it's the preparation.
Exactly, that's it. It's the preparation. And that's what you're the most committed to. And the bad days don't seem as bad anymore, and the great days don't seem as great. They just are what they are.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't give you permission to cash it in the next day because you rocked it, nor do they give you permission to make up and go 5 times as long the next day because you sucked the previous. It just was what it was. And you get up and you sleep and you move on.
Yeah. And your days and your training and your races get easier, and now it's about accepting that having things go well is okay, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
without having to throw a crazy wrench in your program every time something's going smoothly.
Yep. It's crazy. It's weird that we crave, it's
disruption.
Disruption, whatever you want to call it, disruption, drama, tragic, whatever, like traumatic. It's like we crave it. It's like in some form. Doesn't have to be like totally extreme, but we just create it, or we don't do things that make it happen. And it's like just being a procrastinator, waiting to the last minute. Like some people need that pressure, that all this and this, and like they can't prepare, and like it's just we feed off of it, and it doesn't do anything but ingrain in us the further need distraction or pressure or stress, instead of just always doing it to do it well and do it right on time and to do it with a purpose, no matter the result, and it's going to be okay.
Man, that's so interesting. That's a microcosm of triathlon to me, really, because it made me just think of we just shot a bunch of swim instruction videos yesterday, and we will be releasing them shortly over time. But you said it's when you were trying to explain swimming square, and that was the image that just came to my mind when you were talking. It was this: people start reaching across and throwing their body out of whack when the real way to do it is stay square and just stay smooth and straight. And we have this in life. We have this tendency to be, like a jagged line back and forth, high, low, high, low, high, low, instead of just being able to stay right there in the middle and stay consistent and level. And that's when things are easiest, when you're in that zone, and when you get way high, then you come down, and then there's this back and forth kind of seesaw thing you got. And that's what makes it harder. And it's just so hard for us to accept the smooth route.
It is.
So anyway, but yeah, so speaking of the swim videos, you got those coming out. What else is going on, bud?
That's it, man. And we got, we're always having questions about, swim camps and triathlon camps, and those are honestly, pretty close to away. We're almost in, once March hits, we're about just a little over a month away from that. Full season, full swing. We've got swim camps in April, May. We've got full-on triathlon camps in April, June, and August. Information on the swim analysis videos and all things that. And then if you have any questions about coaching, whether it's one-on-one coaching or it's just as simple as needing a training plan, we do that as well. So you can always check those things out on the website, crushingiron.com, or if you have any specific questions about coaching or training plans or whatever it is your need, or just somebody to look over your plan, we do that too. And so you can always just email me directly at c26coach@gmail.com.
Yep. And thanks to everybody who's been leaving 5-star reviews out there on iTunes. We're over 100 now. We're at 100 or over 100.
We're like 102 or something.
102 5-star reviews. That's awesome. That helps.
Halfway to a million.
Halfway to a million. Just one day at a time, brother.
That's it, man.
1 star at a time.
Doing all the basics right. 1 star at a time. That's right.
We've got
hopefully at like 5 at a time, but you get the picture.
Yeah. We've got these camps, man. It's almost, we're basically sold out. We might have to add another concert, man. It's like the artist that comes, Garth Brooks. You want to add another date.
No, I do want to say though, and no, we had some people transfer out of the April and June camp to the August camp because it fits better with their schedule. So I've got 1 spot open in April, 1 spot in June, and then 4 now in August. But I do want to say, if you have any interest at all, period, even like the slightest, I don't have any details out. If you'd be interested in just coming down to Nashville for a beginners only camp and you have any interest in that at all and what that might look like, shoot me an email. C26Coach, something I've thought about doing, especially given our conversation we had with Steve Del Monte and how many triathletes out there are new and intimidated, about certain aspects, and if there's something that we could do to help, lower that barrier to entry and make the information flow a little more freely. Don't have anything concrete yet, but something that's been on my mind. So any interest at all, any age and ability, as far as ability goes as a beginner, reach out to me, c26coach@gmail.com.
I might be interested in that, actually, these days. Okay, buddy. Well,
beginner speaker, Mike Terali.
Yeah, I'll be your host.
He's been a beginner 6 years in a row.
He's got it down. Consistent beginner.
I like it, man.
All right, man. It's been a pleasure having this conversation with you. Thanks for listening, everybody. This is the Crushing Iron Podcast, and we will see you on Thursday.
See ya.